It's time we had a talk, son, about you being a sexist, misogynist nerd. Oh, how do we know that you're a sexist, misogynist nerd? We looked at your YouTube history and we saw that you disliked the new Ghostbusters trailer. That lets us know that you're a sexist. Let's talk some more about Ghostbusters trailer. The Ghostbusters trailer has officially become the most disliked movie trailer in YouTube history. That's right. I think there's somewhere in the neighborhood of 624,000 dislikes, 652,000 dislikes out of about 30 million views, which is pretty substantial, I guess, in YouTube terms. And there's some neutral reporting going on here, but what I really want to show you guys is some not neutral reporting. Let's look at this rag, The Hollywood Reporter. It would be printed on rags if it weren't printed on pixels. I will link this down below, but I do recommend you turn on your ad blocking software if you choose to view it. I want to dig into some of the sophistry and talk a little bit about what their conjectures, what their claims are. Here's the subtitle. There's a depressing truth here. The film is falling victim to the seemingly inherent sexism that surfaces across the internet, especially when it comes to nerd culture. There's a lot in there. So, first of all, you didn't dislike the movie because you didn't like what you saw. You didn't dislike it because you didn't like the way the characters interacted or the way the characters were presented, or the story of what you saw. Maybe I'm sure you didn't dislike it because Dan Aykroyd wasn't involved in the writing or creation of it, the creator of Ghostbusters along with Harold Ramis, and that the movie was made just after Harold happened to die. I'm sure none of that is at all informing your trepidation about this. I'm sure the trailer itself didn't in any way inform that dislike. It's simply because of sexism. Before I dig into this misogyny, let me back up and say something a little bit wider here, because I have said before, I don't care that much about motivations. I care about the final product. That's when I'm judging the final product. One of these interesting things here is that whenever you have something with a female lead or you have like a female cast, the first defense that people go to when somebody's critical of something is sexism. We saw that with Force Awakens. Now we're seeing it with this. That gives a certain business advantage to casting females, not just because you can try to capture some of that female audience, and the male audience doesn't necessarily dislike seeing women on screen, but also because you can shut down criticism a little bit by name-calling people. Be like, you're a sexist, misogynist, nerd. Let's, with that preamble, dig into some of the things that they say. There's a depressing truth here. Okay, so they use the word truth. That's a strong word. Are they saying something that's true? We'll see. I will say that I do not think they're saying something that is true. The film is falling victim, right? Objects can't be victims. So there's something. So the film itself is a victim, even though the film is not a person and therefore cannot be a victim in any kind of meaningful sense. But the word victim is one of those strong rhetorical words. If somebody's a victim, they say, you're victim blaming. Right now, victim's a hot word, so they chose to use it. To the seemingly, all right, we're going to use a weasel word here, seemingly, which means that the claim cannot be proven or disproven. Inherent sexism. Ooh. It's not active sexism. It's not acquired sexism. It's inherent. It's inbred. It's part of who you are. That surfaces across the internet. Not just on YouTube. Okay. Across the internet, especially when it comes to nerd culture. Nerd is actually one of those rhetorical words. It's one of those color words. I talk about color words. The word nerd is actually kind of a hate word, right? It's a derogatory word. It's a word that you use to describe somebody who is smart, right? Usually the word nerd is used to negatively say something about someone who is intelligent, and usually it accompanies ideas of social ineptitude or something like that, like the idea of you're a nerd, right? There's a lot of nerd hate out there, and it's been that way for a long time. We can go into depth with it with some other thing, but that is a strong color word. So they're saying basically nerd culture is a thing, that nerds are inherently sexist, that part of their innermost being is sexism. Although we do negate that with the word seemingly, so we can't be told that, yeah, you said this, I said it seemingly that way. Yeah, It's like, no, it's a weasel word. And then depressing truth. Okay. And the film is falling victim. There's our strong sophistry in that subtitle. Let's dig into some of the stuff they say. If online sentiment is to be believed, Sony's Ghostbusters reboot is in trouble even before its release, with the initial trailer for Paul Feig's movie supposedly receiving more thumbs down votes on YouTube than any other movie trailer in the platform's history. But does that really mean that things are looking dire for the PIC's prospects, or there's something strange in this particular neighborhood? At the time of this writing, Sony official uploaded the movie's trailer has 624,000 thumbs down, 29,900,237 views. That's one thumbs down for every 49.7 views. That's right. Let's remember that number, 49.7 views, which would be an impressive number if it reflects a genuine dislike on behalf of all viewers. Well, let me tell you, I have videos that have dislikes in probably a higher proportion than that, and certainly dislike to like ratios that are just as bad, if not worse, because I say things that provoke people sometimes. So I don't, whatever. There is no way to check where the thumb down votes come from. Okay, so right there you're saying everything I have to say is baloney. I'll leave the stronger pejoratives for you. But the metrics seem, the weasels, genuinely strange when taken in context of other deeply unpopular YouTube videos. The most disliked video on the platform, Baby by Justin Bieber, has one thumbs down vote for every 225 views, for example. And on average, the top 10 most disliked videos on YouTube, There's a Playlist, has one thumbs down for every 449 views. Is Ghostbusters really almost 10 times less popular than the most disliked video on the platform? Okay, it's the 18th most unpopular on the site, apparently. So here's the bad comparison with Baby by Justin Bieber. Most of the people who are tuning in to watch a Justin Bieber video are specifically interested in seeing that Justin Bieber video, right? So even though it has a really high proportion of dislikes, most of the people who are going to want to watch a Justin Bieber video are Justin Bieber fans, right? The people are not tuning into like Mayhem's Psywar video or Mayhem's anti video because they don't like Mayhem. Right, most of the views are going to be towards videos that people want to watch. So this is a really dumb example. A better example will probably be like Friday by Rebecca Black, which became infamous, almost like a Rick Roll kind of thing to link Friday by Rebecca Black. The numbers become stranger when you factor in other movies. The official teaser for Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, a movie that seems anecdotally weasels much derided on social media, has only 16,489 thumbs down votes based on almost twice as many views. It's probably because it wasn't as bad a trailer and it didn't offend people as much. Maybe that could be the case, that like people were not particularly upset about the trailer for Batman versus Superman, that like it didn't show them things that upset them. It didn't like show that they were going in opposite directions from what the original movie was, and that none of the people who created the original were going to be involved in it. I don't think Batman v Superman had that level of negativity going into it, right? So there you go. The trailer for last year's dramatic flop, Fantastic Four, over 7,302 thumbs down votes. Well, the problem there is that the things that are a flop in the box office are not necessarily disliked for their trailer, right? They end up being a flop in the box office because the trailer doesn't interest people, not because it actually upsets people. Let's go on. Let's jump down here a little bit. You'll notice something almost immediately. There's a preponderance of female-fronted videos on the list. Okay. So this is one of those cases where you're going to invent like a motivation, sexism, to explain something like that. If you have a bunch of female-fronted videos that people don't like, it might have to do with a different factor. Like you keep putting women in bad movies hoping that you can call people sexist for criticizing them. That could be it, or it could be something else that like you just end up casting a lot of women in bad movies to try to, for marketing reasons. You cast a woman in a lead role to try to get a little bit more of the market, rather than casting a male in a lead role, and the movie would be bad with either one. So we don't know quite why that is. And again, I'm just giving you conjecture. So are they, because they don't know who's disliking and why necessarily. This shouldn't be a surprise. The sexist backlash to the trailer's initial release was noted at the time, with some pointing towards misogynistic comments on the YouTube upload itself. Hey guys, why don't you take a look at my comment section, on like any of my Star Wars videos and see what YouTube commenters are actually like. Okay, let me tell you, people when they're anonymous on the internet do not pull punches. They say all kinds of bad things. They say like Hitler was great. They say that you should kill yourself. They say that like Barack Obama's a gay lover of someone else. That people just say all kinds of things. That's to me it sounds like, oh, if you're complaining about misogynism on YouTube comments, I don't think you've experienced YouTube very much. The idea of the trailer being targeted by those with a particular agenda becomes more obvious when reading through the comments on the YouTube page itself. Again, the comments are not indicative of who disliked what for what reason. Now, they're saying that there's a nerd agenda here. That's what they're implying. But there's no agenda to this article calling people sexist. In just the last hour, at the time of writing, the following comments have appeared. You can be, too, a part of history by hitting that dislike button. I bet this will hit 1 million dislikes. I wish I could dislike it more than once, and we need more dislikes. It could be because they really don't like the video. It could be that they don't like it rather than they're just sexist. The idea of making history is a pointless one. That's a judgment. Why is it pointless? Why is it pointless? That could send a message. It's not necessarily pointless. That's just saying something is pointless. Show me how it is pointless. It's unlikely to reach the Bieber-esque 6 million dislikes. It'd need to take the overall title. That doesn't mean anything either. The fact that something is intensely disliked doesn't mean that because it's not the most disliked thing ever. It's like, Mao was pretty bad, but he was no Stalin. It's like, all right, who cares which one's bad? They're both bad. As a result of its current YouTube status, after all, more people are talking about the movie than before, and just one look at its companions on the unpopularity stakes makes something else obvious besides the misogyny. There's a lot of massively popular hit songs on there. All right, so people don't like the mainstream. But again, that just means that there's a lot of people who want to watch that video and don't end up hitting the dislike button, right? Now, there is something that I want to dig into right here. I skipped this paragraph and I want to go back to it specifically to talk about numbers. With 22 million views on Facebook at the time of writing, sentiment towards the trailer is more than 90% positive, oddly enough. Okay, but let's go back up to the numbers here. 1 dislike for every 47.9 views. That's 2%. Right? That's like 2%. And actually, I don't know about their math here, because when I divide 624,000 by 29 million, I think I get a slightly different number, but we'll just take 47.9. That's like 2%. So 2% dislikes versus 90% positive. What's the other 10%, right? So there's just as much negativity on the YouTube trailer, if not less. There's only 2% versus 10%. So that's, throwing out numbers like that. And then, of course, they say, they're going to use some weasel words here. Seemingly far more savage, seemingly. So ultimately what this article is doing is trying to tell you that you're a sexist if you don't like the new Star Wars trailer, or you're not interested in the new Star Wars movie. You're a sexist, or other people who don't like it are sexist, so you can ostracize them for being sexist without actually not actually showing any proof of that, right? Other than a few YouTube comments. But we all know how YouTube comments are, right? So they're trying to make a intensive social point without actually saying anything. This is an example of really what I would call bad journalism, with all the little weasel words, and just like a bad opinion article. A good opinion article would talk about the writer's opinion, not invent the opinion of faceless people who click dislike on a YouTube video. That's not what I'm into. Let me talk very quickly about Ghostbusters real quick. So Ghostbusters, I'm not particularly interested in seeing it, and the reason for me personally is because Dan Aykroyd and Harold Ramis are not involved in it. Like, they didn't write the story, they didn't write the script, and they wrote the first 2 Ghostbusters movies, and they also wrote, I guess, the Ghostbusters video game that came out. They wrote that. So the guys who created Ghostbusters, who were very, very integrated into the Ghostbusters franchise, at least early on, they're not involved with this movie, which basically says to me that it's gonna end up being it's gonna end up being devoid of like artistic honesty, and I'm not really interested in seeing somebody else's take on somebody else's art. That's just not what I'm interested in. However, let's imagine if, could there be a good Ghostbusters story with 4 women? And one other thing, Melissa McCarthy has in this talked briefly about the trailer, saying that it seems like a requel, but it's actually just a reboot, which to me doesn't make it better. But in this movie, it's like the original Ghostbusters never happened. And I don't know if that's going to upset people or not, but there it is. It doesn't make a difference to me. I'm not super into reboots or remakes, right? I've kind of decided that's something I would prefer to not watch if I had the option, but we'll see. Anyway, let's imagine a good story with these 4 women. Could you have a good Ghostbuster story with 4 girls? Yeah, definitely. There's nothing to say that having 4 female characters is going to necessarily lead to a bad story. I think the other things that people saw and the other elements are leading people to believe that like the Ghostbusters franchise is kind of being milked here. And I think, especially with the lack of involvement of the original creative team, I think that there's some validity to that. Of course, I haven't seen the movie, so I can't judge it. But that's my original feeling, is I don't really want to support something that is not created by the people who, use their creative energies to create the original thing. But if let's say we have the cast return, we're going to make a new Ghostbusters movie. Let's imagine that these are like their daughters and they have to learn this franchise. They have to learn this business from their parents. That could be a good movie, and that could be an interesting take on Ghostbusters, is dealing with like, how do you teach your ornery kids to do your business that you built up and not destroy it? I could think of a lot of fun stories to deal with for women, or sons and daughters. They don't all have to be women. They could be some women, some men. To me, it doesn't matter really if they did one with 4 girls, as long as it was good. I think it's the other things that make me believe it's not going to be good. However, when we do see the 4 women, and then you see articles like this pop up, you can see that there's a definite advantage to doing something like this, and that anytime somebody opposes what you're doing, you can just call them sexist and avoid having to actually engage with any kind of criticisms that may exist or any kind of trepidation about whatever product you're doing. Anyway, that's all I have to say about that. Please let me know what you think in the comments. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I really do appreciate the conversations, and stay vigilant and stay happy as much as you can. There's still plenty of good things coming out. I know we talk about like the stuff that's easy to hate on, but there's good things out there. Let's try to focus on those good things too. And I sincerely hope you have a very, very good day or a very, very good evening whenever you happen to be watching this. Have a good one.